So when you're treating hair, what sort of fluence levels do you normally use?
It depends on the client. Each one is an individual, so I treat them as such. But I'd probably be in the range of something like 32, 34 joules per square centimetre, right up to maybe 44, 46 even.
Right, excellent. And what sort of pulse widths would you use for those fluences?
In the range of 35 to 40 milliseconds roughly.
Okay. And when you're using these levels, what kind of pain level will your clients experience?
That's a good question, because obviously the pain threshold varies from individual to individual, so it's a relative number, but I ask them out on a scale of 1 to 10 how they feel it affects them, and I like to treat people around about the 7 or 8, give or take, but I always get a feedback, and the feedback is quite important.
So if they say to you that they're experiencing a pain level of 5, what would you do?
Well, that's far too low, because you're not going to get the results that you'd be looking for, and they won't get a result, and they won't be happy either. So I would have to increase the fluence if it was only a pain level 5.
Right, and if somebody comes in and they've got a darker skin, what do you do with the fluence then?
Generally, I tend to reduce it slightly, but again, I'm looking for a certain amount of erythema. I'm looking for the skin to tell me how it's reacting, and it's the reaction of the skin that tells me whether I can increase or decrease it. So somebody may say they're a pain level 1, or they may say a pain level 10, but that's not really the critical factor. It's what the skin is telling you. That's what you've got to be looking at.
And when you're reducing the fluence, what would you reduce it from and to?
If it was a skin tone, skin colour, I might reduce it by 1 or 2 joules per square centimetre. So not a great reduction, but again, it depends on their skin tone, skin colour completely, but a slight reduction.
Okay. So what's the absolute minimum fluence you would ever use for hair removal?
Minimum, well, probably around 30, 32. Like I say, I start at 32, go up to 44, so minimum around about 30, 32.
So you'd never go below 30 then?
No, not at all. There's no point. A patch test, yes, I might start a patch test at 25, 26, 28 perhaps, even 30s, 34s, 36 as a patch test. Again, if you do it gradually, you can see the reaction, and so you've got a very good idea as to your start point for the treatment.
So you would do more than one shot for a patch test?
Definitely, yeah, you can't just do one. It's not a hit or miss. I had just a brief experience. I had one lady started with a patch test on her arm, and she was absolutely fine, but when I did exactly the same patch test on her neck, it flared up, very pink, very red, totally different reaction for different parts of the body, and you have to take that into account.
Right, excellent. What about the cooling? What sort of cooling regime do you usually
Critical,
use?
absolutely critical. I personally use wet cloths. They're the equivalent of face cloths that are folded. They're wet first, of course, cold water, put it in the freezer so they come out as little ice packs, and I use that as a post-care cooling mechanism. Air doesn't work. A lot of salons or clinics use blow cold air onto the client. It doesn't work because it's a poor conductor of heat.
And how long would you apply these frozen cloths for?
Depends on the treatment as to how red the skin has become, the amount of erythema that you get. I like the expression, the redder the better. So it may only be a couple of minutes, or it might be 3 or 4 minutes. Sometimes I might discard that cloth because it's lost its cooling benefits, and I'll go to the freezer and get another frozen cloth and apply it if necessary, but that's rare. But one cloth is usually enough. It's really to dissipate the heat as quick as possible.
So that could be for maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes?
Yeah, definitely.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. And you're looking for erythema as an endpoint when you're treating hair?
Usually, but it's not essential. So like I say, the redder the better, but it doesn't mean that if you don't see the erythema that it's not working. You know that by the fact that you fired the fluence in, you know the energy's gone in there. So you just have to be careful not to overdo it. But yes, erythema is, in my book, goes sort of hand in hand in a way. Quite useful.
And do you go over the same area twice?
No, tend not to. That what's the point of doubling the energy or the fluence? There is no point. Just do it once. I have heard of people doing it twice in a different treatment altogether. They sometimes do that, but I feel that's unnecessary. Be effective. Make sure that you're covering every little millimeter almost of the skin, and you'll get a good result.